Hey guys, what's up? It's Eli Knight with Knight Jiu-Jitsu, and I'm here with Jared Jessup. And I've had several questions pop up all the time that people have as requests. And one of them is like, what's the first 5 or 3 or 10 or whatever of this? And a big one is, what's the first 5 submissions I should know when I'm starting Jiu-Jitsu, or like that I should get comfortable with when I'm first starting in Jiu-Jitsu? And I don't like that question, first of all, but like because it's hard for me to answer. Because there's so many things that you need to understand, and there's reasons why you should learn how to understand them, and it's hard for me to not leave out really important ones. But I think if I was going to narrow it down to 5 submissions that I think that are really important to understand principally and technically when you're first starting your jiu-jitsu journey and for years to come after that, it would probably be these 5. So let's jump right into it, and the first one I would talk about is probably Americana. Now, I know the Americana tends to be, when you watch the different competitions at higher level or MMA or whatever, it tends to be a lower percentage submission, but you also have to kind of take in consideration the skill level of that, and then who it's being applied to, how they're applying it, and yada yada like that. And we're talking about when you're first beginning, so this is going to be a really prevalent one, I think, whenever you're first starting your journey and for years to come. So Americana, we're going to look at it from mount, but keep in mind the criteria of how I would go through choosing what the 5 most important submissions would be is the versatility of these submissions as well. So it's not just that this is important so we can have an attack from the mount, but it's also important because I can hit this from side control, I can hit it from guard, I can hit variations of it from a lot of different positions, and it's very important to understand how mechanically it works. So the basic application is if I can isolate the arm like this in approximately 90 degrees here like this, and then I get my elbow down here in the wedge of his neck, and I'm going to look to go 5 fingers over so I can really wrap over this way and get my wrist above my knuckles like this here and keep his wrist pinned to the floor. I'm going to go palm up underneath so I can get under. This is a little harder sometimes, and this allows me to wedge up underneath. Find my own wrist again, so double like thumbless grips here. I'm gonna turn my head away from it. What's happening over on this side may be either that I'm pinching my knee and elbow together like this, or I'm dropping this back and hooking his leg if it's available to me, so I can drop my hip heavy. Once there, I think about this as a paintbrush kind of move. So this is like the handle of the paintbrush, these are the bristles, and I'm gonna paint a stroke from here down toward his toes this way. What's happening is because of the angle of this lock here, the pressure is going into the rotator cuff, it's going to the shoulder, and it's twisting it the wrong direction. It's gonna tear the shoulder apart here. I've also seen this do things as much as like breaking the humerus, depending on like how tight the shoulder is. This is very important to understand how to manipulate this bent arm kind of submission like that. When you think about submissions from Jiu-Jitsu, one of the ones that really pops into people's mind first of all, so it had to be included, is the straight arm lock. And again, not just because it can happen from mount, but it can happen from side control, it can happen from guard, it can happen from north-south, it can happen from back mount. Almost every position, there's a route to get to the arm bar, so that's why it's very important to include this. The standard application, the way we typically learn, is the guy's kind of trying to bench press me. Once I get in this mount position, I drop my weight kind of dead on him like this. I go one hand in between on his chest, one hand on top like this, so I'm putting the weight back on him, and that's going to make my legs weightless to be able to slide up into this kind of position, funnel my hips up very close to his shoulder, keep my center right over his shoulder line like this, lean the weight on my south side leg so this leg is light to come across here, and then I'm going to use my arms to hug, keep up this way to fold out on the arm here, making sure, trying to keep the thumb up just as a landmark so that I know the well of the elbow is pointing up this way. Squeeze my knees together, hold, find the wrist after I have it fully extended, pull down, lift up like this to execute the straight arm lock. Again, a great thing about this too is that it can couple with the first submission that we looked at as well. Say that I'm pushing this arm down to go for this Americana, he comes to over here like this to put this in my way, or maybe to rescue his arm. And so then I can slide up into this position, scoop this arm up here, slide the leg over here, grab this, straighten it out. So this is another criteria that I would use to determine what are the most important ones to learn in the beginning, is how they couple and how they interconnect between each other. So we have Americana, we have straight arm lock. In the next couple that we're going to look at here, again, very versatile, can hit from a lot of different positions. The way that we typically learn them in the beginning is from the guard, from close guard. And we'll go from here, and this is where he gives me some kind of frame structure like this. You're told a lot in Jiu-Jitsu whenever you're first beginning your stages, and later on too, is don't put your hands on the floor when you're inside the closed guard like this. And this is one of the main reasons why. Because when I see this here to isolate this, I can look to attack this bent arm structure. So I'm gonna go to sit up like this here. As I go to sit up in this way, I'm going to intersect kind of this area, and I'm gonna grab the wrist here. This is gonna be a thumb full grip because I'm gonna push with it, and I'm gonna come over here this way and hook. I don't necessarily have to connect. If I can, I will, but if not, I'm just gonna hook here like this. This is just as much of me pulling the elbow as it is pushing the wrist whenever I come back down. I don't like to necessarily put the weight on the feet, but I can if I need to. I'm gonna pull here like this, and I'm gonna get out to the side here, and I'm gonna hip, shoulder, like this. I'm gonna make the connection here, keep the 90-degree bend in the arm, keep the elbow in the center of my chest, close the guard back up so it takes away some of his ability to roll out over this, and then I'm gonna take this pinky finger here and put it in that ear right over there. It probably won't make it. So, we go here. This also may be that whenever we're in this position and he goes and he pushes us up, whenever he does that, he has to plant his hand on the floor. Then I can shoot back over this way. I'm gonna push this out here. Hip comes out, shoulder comes out, hip out again, shoulder out, close the guard, keep the bend in the arm, take his hand to the back of his head here, keeping everything funneled in nice and close. Now again, Kimura is, you can look at a lot of different things. A lot of people have done a lot of work with the Kimura, like the Kimura trap system, like David Avalon has done, and like a lot of people have really capitalized on. It remains from beginning, first days of Jiu-Jitsu to way advanced later on in your career as whatever rank you're at. A very powerful, very tricky to defend submission. Here from let's say we're in the guard and he goes to set us up here like this, and maybe I'm thinking about sweeping, or maybe I'm thinking about Kimura, but maybe he drives back into me, so then I'm gonna shoot my hips back out this way, and I'm gonna take this arm here that's over his back, and I'm gonna lace through here, get underneath his neck. I'm gonna reach this hand inside here like this, find my wrist down here by the base of my hand this way, and I'm gonna grab this direction, lean over to the side, close the guard back, squeeze here this way, and finish for the guillotine. Now, the guillotine choke, I put this into my top 5 because I think that instinctively it's very natural for us to want to like try to grab the opponent's head. And you see unskilled fighters all the time that want to put somebody in a headlock. And this is a variation of a front headlock. So if you understand this and you can take your natural instinct to grab this person in this position, then you can really easily try to manipulate that and correct it a little bit to make it into a powerful submission. This also interplays well between other attack systems and other kind of submission chains, like going from Kimura to guillotine, or straight arm lock to guillotine, or guillotine back to another submission. So the guillotine choke, whether it's standing, guard, mount, side mount, it's a very powerful, very versatile submission I would put in my top 5 for sure. One more time on that application. The basic idea of it is whenever I grab here, whatever the position is, I'm looking to grab this part here underneath here, and I'm trying to keep my shoulder or insertion of the pec on top of Jared's head here. I'm grabbing here to pull up. I would like to do the high elbow guillotine if that's an option here to block his arm from coming over this way. And then that's gonna get me the choke right there. I think one of the like archetypal submissions that people will like envision whenever they think about Jiu-Jitsu, if you saw anything Jiu-Jitsu related, is the rear naked choke. That's kind of the crescendo of all submissions, because if you can get behind the opponent and you can use this, it's one of the most powerful submissions. It's one of the hardest for him to defend once I get into position. Lots of different ways that we can set it up and everything else, but that's time for a different video that allows us a lot more technical breakdown and everything. But essentially what's happening on the rear naked, just right here, is that whenever I get around behind Jared, of course I want my hooks, I want to isolate the position before submission always, but once I'm here and I want to finish this choke, I'm going to look to get this V shape of my arm this way, right in line with the shape of his neck. So I'm creating this kind of triangular shape here like this. I want my bicep to close off one side of the carotid here, my forearm on the other side here on the carotid like this. Here, I want to hide my hand behind his head. If I leave this hanging out in front, he's going to grab this and be able to defend against the choke. So I don't want to leave it hanging out too loosely. I want to take this, slide right in there, right back by that like occipital ridge, hide it, keep my head close like this here, and then look to squeeze, raise, pinch my shoulders back, expand my chest, and then get the rear naked choke like that. If I get here and he's doing too good of a job not allowing me to get this hand back, I can always elect for the short choke variation where I hide my forearm behind his back like this, put my forearm and my bicep together, use my head to help squeeze a little bit like this here, and then still get the tap like that. So again, I'm trying to cut off the blood flow to his brain and put him to sleep. If it's a clean choke, it should really concentrate on the blood, not be too painful, not have to have a lot of air constriction before it puts him to sleep. So again, we could include a whole lot of other submissions in these, but the biggest thing, I think that these illustrate a lot of very valuable principles behind them. I think that they're very versatile as far as how they can be set up, what positions they can come from, how they can interconnect to other submissions, and that's why I would make my top 5 probably these submissions right here. Of course, these need a lot more technical breakdown, and we'll have other videos to set that up. I've probably got some other videos about very precise breakdowns of these, either on YouTube or on my Patreon too. But anyway, check those out for a little more technical precision. But these are the ones I would suggest that if you're starting out in Jiu-Jitsu and you really want to like start to learn about how submissions work, principally as well as technically, focus on these right here in your beginning stages. And let me know what you think about them. If you have some others or any other questions, or if you have any other suggestions about what you would put in your top 5, let me know in the comment section. But thank you for watching the Night Jiu-Jitsu channel, guys. Keep watching. Check out the IQ Jiu-Jitsu.
IQ Jitsu. We're on IQJitsu.com. You can also find us on Facebook, IQ Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah. Jared's putting out a lot of great information. Jared Jessup with IQ Jiu-Jitsu. And I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you very much.